Check out that sexy back. What's crackalacking, peeps? Welcome to Rolling with V. Alrighty guys, we're back in Durban, in my hometown, here for a bit of a holiday. One of the great things about being here is I get to drive a Cobra that we built nonetheless. That was built in the 90s. So I'll take you all through the entire experience and we'll go for a bit of a drive. Also give you all some information on the car itself. Okay, so we took on the Cobra project in the early 90s. I was still in school at that point in time. The project was initiated by my dad, and the reason behind getting behind building a car like this was to spend family time together, as well as to give us a bit of experience with the mechanical side of vehicles. And it paid off quite well, I suppose. So the overall project took us about 3 years to complete. Our weekends were spent either going through scrapyards, finding spares for the cars, going to workshops, getting some knowledge, getting some experience. The Cobra's got a 383 stroker motor in it at the moment. The engine started off its life as a 350 Chevy motor with a little bit of work done to it. We needed more power, so we went for the 383 stroker motor. Now that motor has got forged internals, forged crankshaft, pistons, rods. It's fairly high compression. The heads are aluminium Edelbrock heads. It's got a Holley 850 CFM carburetor. So in terms of power and performance, there's a lot of power. It's a naturally aspirated motor, but it's got a lot of low-down torque, and it revs nice and clean all the way to about 6,000, 6,500 revs. It's also got a fairly decent cam on it, so probably around the 450 horsepower mark. It's a fair amount of power for the lightweight car that it is. That engine is mated to a 5-speed gearbox, which has got stainless steel gears, and it can handle a fair amount of power. The diff on the car, it's a limited slip diff as well, so power goes to both the back wheels quite nicely. Also helps with the traction and getting it off the line, and the handling as well. It's got a tubular steel chassis that holds everything together, and then the body mounts on top of the chassis. Although it's a kit car, it's not like your Lego pieces where one thing fits directly into another. Quite a lot of modifications and matching of parts that needs to be done in order to get things right and working the way they should. The body is a full fiberglass body. The body came in a pretty raw sort of texture when it came from the factory that we ordered it from. So there was quite a bit of work in terms of getting the doors shaped correctly, the bonnet and the boot shaped correctly, and all the seam marks. Where the joins were from the molding to the actual body itself. So a lot of work involved there. There were times when you were sanding with the fiberglass, it gets into your nose, gets into your hair, and it's your whole body feels itchy. So it's quite an interesting experience. Not something I want to do in a hurry again, I have to admit. There were a lot of times when we had to go out and parts were not available in terms of what we were looking for. And we had to manufacture our own. Things like the header tank for the radiator, the fuel tank had to be manufactured from scratch, learned a bit of welding in between. All of the parts that we ended up getting from scrapyards and second-hand parts were stripped down completely, even to the point of the calipers, rebuilding calipers, new plungers, repainting all of the parts so that it looked like new when it went into the car.
Thanks, man.
first time we needed to start the engine was something we weren't planning for on the day. So we needed fuel. So put the fuel into a container with a hose pipe and let it run through the fuel pump just so that we could get the engine started. And one of the experiences was that we had to, instead of going to the garage and wasting time, we said siphon fuel out of one of the other cars that were at home. And that was a nasty experience. First time siphoning fuel in your life, and then you end up taking in fuel into or swallowing the fuel. Yeah, not a pleasant experience, and you end up burping fuel for the rest of the day. But yeah, you learn a thing or two. Imagine, in the 60s to be behind the wheel of a car with this amount of power on the racetrack. Technology wasn't as great back then, but it must have been a proper thrill to be driving something like this on the racetrack. The tires on the front are 245, 35, 20, and looking at the rear, there's some massive rubber on here, 295, 30, 20. The Cobra's got ABS, traction control, power steering, anti-skid. Actually, it's got none of all of that. It's up to you to decide how it goes, and your right foot determines that. With the amount of power that it's got on tap, even with the 20-inch wheels, it breaks traction easily. So you have to be on your toes when you decide how much of pressure you want to put on the throttle. Suspension all-round, fully independent suspension all-round, so that it handles pretty well in that way. It's got inboard discs at the rear, on the rear suspension, and disc brakes in the front as well. One of the things you probably noticed is the wheels that we had originally on the car were 16-inch equipped wheels, but we've changed that now to 20-inch VS wheels. The issue that we had with the original wheels is that the tire size is no longer available. 255 50 16s at the back, and we're not able to get those tires locally in South Africa anymore. We've got these rims on the cars at a bit of a temporary measure, and in the near future, we're going to try and manufacture rims that would actually fit and suit the car the way we intended for it right at the beginning. Before you're about to jump in and drive the Cobra, there's a feeling of anxiousness and nervousness, but it's such an adrenaline rush. It's absolutely addictive. It does put a smile on your face, but you need to be aware at all times because